Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Wargaming. I'm your host, Dom Maidlow, also known as Dark Techno Dom from the Realspace Raiders Drukhari Podcast. And this is something a little different. I'm here interviewing tabletop legends. And with me today is Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming. How are you doing, Mikey?
I'm very good, man. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
Yeah,
this is a fun project. A very fun project.
Yes, it's a new project for me because I've obviously been doing podcasts for the last year and a half, and I just kind of wanted to branch out on my own and just do my own thing and talk to legends like yourself. So how's everything going? So recently you've had a little bit of a hiatus from Hellstorm Wargaming because you've got a new exciting project for 2022, haven't you?
Yeah, so you can call it a hiatus from Hellstorm. It's just I'm not making videos because my life is now DIY and moving. So we recently acquired a studio based in Sanctuary Gaming Centre in Sutton in Ashfield, where the actual venue that we run our tournaments at, and we're like partnering up with them, and I've rebuilt basically one of their rooms into like the perfect 40K filming studio for filming like battle reports and doing live battle reports there as well. So for those who know me already and are looking at the video now, sorry, podcast listeners, it looks very different behind me, but I'm actually in the same room as I always have been. So there's no bookshelves anymore. Well, there is, but they've got books on, weird. And there's no LEDs anywhere. So all my stuff currently is in another location. I'm currently right in the middle of the move, like right in the middle of essentially I'm getting like a whole new stream room, a whole new battle report stream room, and then I'm making a 3D printing farm as well. So it's just wild, mate. It's wild.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Very tired.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of your weekly live streams where you're on Twitch, either painting, talking shit, or just generally just hanging out with the rest of the rest of your crew. And it's really good. I've enjoyed it during lockdown. It's nice to see other people joining in with a hobby, and your chat is always just on point, and it's always very funny.
Fun. Yeah,
you've got great supporters, and I'm excited for this new studio.
Thank you.
So this will be when this video comes out. This will be 2 weeks after LVO for everyone that's kind of watching this now. But when is the studio going to be fully up and running, do you reckon?
I really hope by the time this video is out, I am up and running. But at the time of recording, it is 90% complete, the Battle Report studio. But the home studio, where I'll be doing my talking head live streams, is currently how do we put this? A small bomb site.
Oh God!
So I'm hoping by the end of this week, it's early in the week, so hopefully by the end of this week, if not early next week, we'll be back up and running. I said to myself 2 weeks, and we're into week 3. So
yeah, you're gonna get it done in the end, and it will be great. So you'll get your home back because there won't be warhammer everywhere.
Yes,
and 3D printers everywhere. And
yeah, exactly. It's been a long 2 weeks, and a lot of people are being like, "Hey, man, you've been off for 2 weeks now. When are you coming back?" I'm like, "Man, if I knew that answer, I'd be much happier right now."
Yeah, but it's great that you've had all the help from your friends, people that we've all seen being viewers of Hellstorm Wargaming. You've through the years on your battle reports, it's great. We've seen updates from obviously your Instagram, and it looks like it's going really well. And it looks really nice as well.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of those things. It's always cliche to say, but it is true. I literally couldn't be doing what I am doing without the people who do directly support me. And now we're making all content free. We're not going to be paywalling any battle reports anymore. So support is now more crucial than ever, and people have just been super generous. So I wanted to just quick jump in and say thank you to everyone. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's great. I've seen how your community reacts, especially when you busted your screen, and then out of nowhere, just bang, here, have a
that's
screen.
That's it, brand new monitor. It's amazing. Yeah, people are super generous, and honestly, I keep asking myself why, because I'm just a knobhead on the internet, but people seem to appreciate the crap that comes out of my mouth. So
yeah, well, I've always appreciated the honesty and how you don't kind of cut anything out. It's just this is hilarious, let's talk about it. Or this is not okay, I get this stuff for free anyway, so may as well just chat about it.
I mean,
it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's one of those things. I think, like in anything, not just like Warhammer, but in any aspect of anything, there's always like people who like take it super seriously and like, I'm a professional and I'm this and that. I'm just a knobhead. I'm just a dick. And I just say it how it is. And I think people appreciate like the breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I'm just yeah.
yeah. It's great. So speaking about like 2021, you had some tournaments. You yourself are a competitive player, and in previous years and even at events like last year, you've done really well. And you're known as a competitive player, and a lot of your battle reports are very competitive. But you branched out into the your own tournaments. It was the Bolter and the Chainsword, was it?
We had the Bolter, the Chainsword, Rip and Tear, which had its feet to the chain axe, and we had Gladius last year. So we had 4 events last year.
Wow.
We really crammed them in.
I bet. So for everyone who didn't know you had these, but I'm sure that everyone watching this will have known about these tournaments. Where are they? How many people are there? And the most importantly, is there going to be some this year?
Yeah. Okay. So we currently run all our events at Sanctuary Gaming Centre, where our studio is based. So that's in Sutton and Ashfield. It's like 15-minute drive from Warhammer World. So it's essentially like a coffee shop at the front that sells like super cool cakes and stuff like that, and then it's a Warhammer shop and then a gaming venue in the back, and it's got like pinball machines, arcade machines. It's amazing, right? It's also got a really cool Hellstorm studio there now, but that's another story. But so they over the first lockdown, they moved venues, so they were based in a church, which was a lot bigger in terms of tables, but also just a terrible venue for like comfort. But it's now in a super cool place. But we have dropped to 48 players. But this year we're going to be running more events at 50 man, and every event's going to be live streamed as well.
Oh, great! So you're going to use your studio to do the top tables?
Yeah, exactly. So studio's there, so that means 1 extra table, and it's fully equipped to stream an event. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really cool. Yeah. I love watching like events where they actually stream it live. Like a big fan of the Frontline Gaming guys on the weekend just gone, who just did the live streams, and then you did some was it LGT the year before last? You did.
We did the LGT in 2019. That was the
pre-COVID.
Well, yeah, pre-COVID, long time. But more recently, we did the Goonhammer GT, which was in October last year. So we streamed their event, and that was super cool because we had a dual table setup, which is like it's kind of like one of our like USPs, I guess. It's like having multiple tables streamed all at the same time. We're actually in talks with another event by Goonhammer.
Oh, nice.
And we might even have even more tables streamed all at the same time, which would be very cool. Fun.
Live on Twitch and YouTube?
Well, just be YouTube, but no longer Twitch, but be live on YouTube for free. So,
oh, great. This is great. Yeah. So people can, even if they can't make it, they can follow your events and see what the top lists are going at the moment, because I'm a sucker for that. I like watching all these live events and just seeing what everyone's bringing, because it changes so much. And yeah, it's great. So these events, have you got an idea of how many you want to do this year, or just got plans for the first one?
So I'm just securing dates for the first one, which I'm hoping to run at the end of March for our first one back. And then I'm hoping to run them every couple of months. So because they're only small events, you can kind of do a couple more throughout the year. We've got some really, really, really big plans for Hellstorm events in general. Can't reveal too much as of yet, but it won't be remaining 50 man for much longer.
That's great. That's great.
It's exciting. Really very exciting.
Yeah.
Getting all the hot goss. This is all secrets, but I don't want to say too much. I want to give you juicy gossip, but not say too much. I want to keep
I appreciate being the new
dangling the carrot. Come on, quick.
Tune in for Hellstorm for more. There you go.
Exactly. Keep an eye on the socials. That's all I'll say.
Nice. So as you're a TO, I want to ask you a few questions about, like call this, I guess, the meta segment, where I'll ask you a couple of, questions about armies that have just been released. So obviously we've got Tower Dunes, the Cult, and Custodes.
Sure.
And then also a couple of questions about like what you think about certain terrain setups, and also a couple of rules that got released recently, which me personally, I think need to get removed out of that book straight away, because it can come from a very salty place that some gamers have, where if they get cheated, or not cheated, but if they lose a game and they think they can win it, they can just concede. I mean, we may as well talk about this now as I'm talking about it.
I mean, you've basically spilled all the beans there. You
Yeah. So in the new chapter proof, there was the update to the tournament pack, and there was a rule in there which means if your opponent concedes, you're capped at your points, and the other person gets 0. But I'm not sure it's even remotely a good idea, because let's say you're at LGT. You've just gone 4 games in a row getting 100, 100, 100, 100, and there's a bracket you need to get into the playoffs, and you need a minimum of like 85 points. And this is people who don't go to tournaments. This is very high scoring. It's out of 100, and to get 100 is very good. It's usually all the broken stuff that gets it, or very good. But there's a mix of both. If you get to your last table and the player in front of you concedes, that is the end of your tournament, because you get capped at 60 points. Or if I've got those points wrong, it might be less or more, but it's not a lot of points. And I think Games Workshop even needs to FAQ it and say, if the player concedes, you get flat 100, or just remove it entirely. Because as a TO, what do you think about this?
It's a real strange one. It's a really strange one, because it's kind of like, I don't want to sound like devil's advocate, but it's kind of like one of those like get out of jail free cards for the person who's not having a fun game. I think that's the intention. If you're playing someone, and we all know them, we've all played them, we've all met them, there's that one person who's just a bit of a, you know what? Your podcast, mate. That's all good with me. If you're playing that one guy who's a bit of an anus, and you don't want to, you kind of have like a, well, now I don't actually have to, and there is like a way we can resolve this problem, right? It's just like, you get 60, I get 0 for kind of like throwing in the hat. But at the same time, you have also brought up something that's like quite relevant, where it's like, if you don't get enough points to make the top playoffs, then you're kind of like out of the runnings. Now, is that a bigger problem with like tournaments as a whole? Like some tournaments where they have so many winners after like probably not enough rounds, let's say, where you have to get 100 every game to be able to like compete to actually win. Now, is that a flaw that needs to be addressed first before this conceding one? Maybe not. But I do agree, it's kind of like a bit of a feels bad if someone just uses it for like, uses it for evil, where they go, well, I don't actually like you, because I'm a nasty person, so I'm just going to concede, so you can no longer go on to win an event. Because like there's always the people. There's a few names in the community which are infamous, to say the least. And if someone is feeling extra spicy that morning, didn't quite get enough porridge down the neck, and they just went, you know what? For all those times that you were a bit of a knobhead, I'm going to get you back right now. I'm just going to concede so you can't win this tournament. That is a bit of a bad move, and it's a bit of a feels bad if that person's not done anything at that moment. So it's kind of like a bit of an issue. Like, tournament shouldn't be in a place where if you don't score enough, you don't get to go on to the final, in my opinion. As a TO, I wouldn't do that. So all our events, 50 man, 6 rounds, 1 true winner. The only person undefeated can win, And then it comes to points. But then it comes to points because that's the other way you can do placings, right? There's no like real other way you can do placings that feels fair. So having a concede in there for 60 is kind of a bit of a... So, it's... Maybe they need to make it higher. Maybe they need to get rid of it altogether. Getting rid of it altogether is probably the safest bet, but also There shouldn't be tournaments where you can have to win every game and score loads to make the finals. It should just be the people who win every game get to the finals.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I can just see, because we know it's going to happen, that you'll get some players who will go, I should have won that. This is rubbish. Like, and the guy's like, oh, you've clocked out, mate. You can't do it. No, all that sort of stuff. And then it gets heated. Then they go, fine, then I can. Yeah. And then it's like, I would have scored 100. Now I'm out of the running, and I just don't think that's okay. And I mean, there should be some protection from the TOs instead of this. Because you should, if you go into a tournament, like people go into your tournaments, like you're there to look after them, because you are making sure that they come to your events again, because you want them to enjoy themselves, you want them to be, even if there is a salty moment, you want it to be resolved properly, not with it says it in the rules, I'm doing this to you.
Exactly. As an organizer, it's your job to make sure that people have a good time. Yeah. Like, the scoring, is important, and the games are important, and what prizes people win are also important. But number one rule is people need to have a good time. And if they're going to have a bad time because you go, well, screw you, here's a 60-point win, even though you've already won, I'm just going to concede officially. That's really bad. Yeah. Really, really bad. Because for the person conceding who gets 0, usually they're out of the running anyway, so they don't really care. But it does affect every single matchup for them and everyone underneath them, because they'll be playing the wrong person. Let's say we're playing, you're on like 95, I'm on 80, and I'm gonna concede. Like, my matchup is screwed, your matchup is screwed, because the points aren't going to be working properly, and it just ruins everything for everyone, like everyone in the event. So as a way to protect everyone in the event, much as that, I'm famously or infamously known, sometimes you do have to do stuff that does affect everybody in the event to protect everyone in the event. Yeah. And having that in there is just real weird.
Speaking of you being famous, I won't mention too much on it, but I like, for those who don't know, when Mikey had one of his tournaments this year, it was one of the probably the highest ranked player in England was there, and tried to, by the rules, was a bit gamey to try and dodge opponents by scoring low. I actually found, ever since you gave him a yellow card or whatever it was for doing that, because people took it left, people took it right, it's anyway. But at the end of the day, it's your tournament. Yeah. So
long story short, for those that you at home and don't know, the player we're talking about, me and him are good friends now, and we have resolved the situation. So it's not like I'm trying to trash talk anyone, just to clear that up.
Not that at all.
But essentially, I yellow carded someone later than I should have, and then it kind of blew up on the internet. That's kind of like the long and short of it. So for what I deemed score manipulation, and just what's it? They have a term for it in the code of conduct, but it's kind of like taking advantage of newer players. It's a word for that. So.
Yeah, and I completely respected you for doing it. And I know a lot of the people I play with and talk about competitive play, they completely respected you for it, because since then, you completely changed the way the UK point pairing system happened. Every event I went to after that was first day randoms, second random pairings. So within everyone with 2 wins, 3 wins, whatever, got paired together. And then last day was the win bracket, whatever it's called.
Yeah, so basically everyone was using battle points to do pairing. So I've scored 100, so I'll play someone who scored 100 or the closest. Now pretty much everyone uses win path, which is number of wins in this succession. So if you got 3 wins, you'll play someone who's got 3 wins. If you got someone that won 1, lost 1, then won 1, you'll play someone who's won 1, lost 1, then won 1, or close as. So and then it's random within those little brackets, so the points don't make a difference. But pretty much every event in the UK does that now. Yeah. And it's probably because of me.
It's good though. I prefer it, because there's moments in the tournaments where you're like, I really hope I don't play this one, and you could totally game it into your manipulate the scores, so that they're gonna, because of the players they're gonna go 100 the whole time. as long as you score like 95, 95, 95, you'll miss them. And then you just have to play them if they make it to the final. You're hoping that someone else that's got a nasty list who's getting 100 all the time will knock them out. Yeah. And like, I get that. That's kind of like, if you're not like a top level competitive gamer, I get it. But this is much better this way. Yeah. Then you can't really game it to your advantage because it gives an unfair advantage, especially if you're trying to dodge matchups.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things that everyone was doing and didn't really think anything of it. But all of it is score manipulation, by to the letter of the law, let's say. But the case that I dealt with at that time was just like a very, very, very extreme version of it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't scoring 95 instead of 100; it was scoring 40 instead of 100. You know, so
yeah.
It was just like that. It was so extreme that it had to be dealt with. Because normally it's one of those things that, again, it's just everyone's done. And then it was kind of like, actually, no, this is a bit of a mistake. Yeah. But now it's pretty much random. You've got to win games to win the event, and you're random with it, whoever else is winning their games as well. So you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So would also, as a TO, like to get your kind of thoughts on talking out games and, you know, clocks and all of that, because like chess clocks are a great way to keep the game moving, especially at the top tables. And then there's no dispute when it comes to the clocking out time that, you know, you've run out of time, you can't really do much. And it's kind of on yourself to play with to the best of your ability, but also keep an eye on the time, because there's been problems in the past when, you know, this all happened in the days of like when it was like Nurgle Demons, and you pretty much could slow play the other player out of winning. And then so the tournament scene kind of took it on themselves. I think it was in seventh, end of seventh and start of eighth, where they would introduce clocks a lot of the time, because it actually gave everyone an equal chance. Because I could spend the whole like hour just in my movement phase, really slowly moving, get onto these 3 objectives, and then by the end of your time, it's the start of my turn again, and then I just score my 10 points, and then I win by just 10 points, and then what do you think about clocks at your events?
It was like slow playing was super huge in like early 8th edition when everyone's playing rulebook missions, where it'd be like hold the objectives at the end of the game to get points, and then you'd be like, again, the most infamous one was like the orcs at one of the Warhammer World Finals. It was an event I was actually at. That was the most infamous one, where they just like kind of like took ages to move orcs, moved them onto 3 objectives, and then pretty much ended the game turn 2, but scored like 15 points or something out of a maximum of 20. And that's when it like started like really like picking up, I think, because 8th edition is when like the tournament scene really got massive, and then people were like, actually, we can't have slow play all the time. It's really bad. Chess clocks are kind of like a plaster on a bigger problem, that the game is just really slow and there isn't enough time in a day to play. Again, because we've just spoken about like points and tournaments not having enough rounds, and then we're like, you know what, we need like 4 hours to play Warhammer because it takes so long.
Right, everyone gets one game a day, and you spend a whole week at Hellstorm playing. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just so chess clocks work, but they are like, the problem is you can use them against your opponent so much, and that's something that's so hard to spot and so hard to like police, that it's like mad. Because like if you're playing like a really slow army, like for example you play like Drukhari, right? If you just have like loads of min squads of like, I don't know, like witches, Kabbalites, everything, and like I'm kind of winning, but you're gonna beat me, but you're running out of time, I could just charge all my stuff that I don't care about into your like witches, for example, and be like, okay, well, you've got to roll them now, it's your time. And you could be like, well, I'm not gonna. And it's like, well, by the rules, you have to roll them, and they get like what 40 attacks per squad or something daft. And then it's okay, you got 3 squads in combat, they're literally gonna do nothing, but you got to roll 120 dice now.
And because that you could game people out of their time, and I know people that do it and have done it.
I've seen it happen, and I've like, you know, I've policed it, you know, and I've just be like, well, that's just, we can see what you're doing, you know. But it's one of those things that you can't see every table, and these things can happen. So chess clocks kind of work, but also don't work at the same time. I'm 100% for them, because I think they are the best fix we've got. Until the games like get like, I don't know, people just need to hurry the hell up personally. But until the game is just a lot quicker, that we can play 3 games in a day, and not need a clock. That'll be the day. That'll be the dream. But until then, yeah, they just need it. And if you never use one, don't be scared of one.
Oh, no.
Whenever I play someone who's not used one before, I'm like, right, okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll manage the clock. Just don't worry about it. I'm just gonna keep banging it and then telling you when to do it. Okay, it's like I will be like, it's your time now. You ready? 3, 2, 1, bam, go. But it's just one of those things. Once you've used it once or twice, it's straightforward. But yeah, it can be. The problem is with chess clocks is there's lots of stories about them being bad. Like this weekend just gone. I'm not going to say anything or any situations. I wasn't there. I don't really care either. But there's like 2 situations that happened on stream that had different rulings at the time. And it's just like, if you're going to do anything, you've just got to be like blanket statement on everyone, And it's just one of those things, You need them, you love them, but you love to hate them,
Yeah, I'm all for them personally. So towards the end of the game, in a lot of cases, there is a lot of speed rolling and talking out the games. A lot of controversy on this, considering a lot. I would almost say it's a 50-50 split, that people don't like talking out the games because it kind of negates the clock as well, because you can be like, okay, so I'll go over here. Do you think I'll kill them? And then you're like, yeah, I'll pick up my models. So that's saving time on both your parts. But what do you think about talking out? Like, are you all for it? Do you think it speeds up the game as long as both people are in agreement of what happens?
I think it's really bad because it's one of those things. With great power comes great responsibility, and people just like to take the piss. Because it'll be like, oh, well, I've got 70 points now, but if I talk through this last turn with you, I can definitely just say I've got 100 out of nowhere. And that does happen. And again, that does happen. It's something that I don't allow. And I'm like, if you haven't finished, if you've not used the clock and you haven't finished with 15 minutes left, I'm going to talk out your game with me, and you're just going to get nothing. I have done that in the past. So most of the time, when if you just say talking out isn't allowed, suddenly people finish games. And I'm like, if you want to talk it out, you can both have 0. And the only time I've had to go in and be like, okay, you guys haven't finished, I am going to work this out for you. It's people who are relatively new, and they've just been having a laugh. They've just been chilling, just be rolling dice, eating beer, drinking pretzels, they're just having the great time, and that's why they've not finished. But if someone to me goes, do you want to talk this out? I'm like, not really, no, because what's going to happen is I'm going to win this game if I play. You're running out of time, and you talk it out, you'll suddenly beat me for no reason, in my opinion. And that's what it always feels like, so. And I just the only reason you'd ever talk it out is because of an emergency, that you've got to go for some reason. But why would you need to talk it out? Then you've got to leave. So I don't think there is any good time to talk it out. It's just because people want to, in my opinion, just manipulate scores. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I've been in many situations where this year, when we've had to talk it out because it's been on top table or whatever, and the TO's there being like, you need to hurry up, and we're trying to get all these dice rolls because it's like what ifs, and we settled by asking TO, these armies, like, could this happen, and it's just roll it. It's good and bad, because people do try their luck because they're like, oh, I've got this and I can do this, but it's like, at the very best, if you get half your dice rolls, you might do half of what you've just said. So it's good and it's bad. That again, I'm very keen on the clocks because for this
exactly. If you've got a clock, you don't need to talk it out. But I can appreciate people being like, we're running out of time. Do we really need to resolve this combat if it's not going to make any difference? And I'm like, you know what? As we just said, let's not try and manipulate the clocks on each other. That's fine. Let's not roll these 40 witches or 40 witches attacks into this unit because nothing's going to happen. That's totally fine. But being like, you're on an objective, so I'm going to shoot this unit. Would you say he dies? It's just like, nah, roll it. Just get some dice, mate. It's not my problem. What if you whiff, on average, everything can kill everything, but that's not
Yeah.
how the game works because of rolling dice. There's too many probabilities, you know.
Yeah.
The problem with probabilities, it probably won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So, talking about, we're always talking about Games Workshop's like Warhammer. Now let's talk about Games Workshop's terrain. So their terrain is great for Necromunda. It's great for Age of Sigmar. It's not great for 40k, if I'm totally honest.
It's great for Age of Sigmar because you don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. So being TO, this is almost, instead of a meta section, this has just been TO Mikey section.
It's just Mikey, the tournament organizer.
Yeah. So Games Workshop terrain. They released a terrain pack, how they would like everything to be laid out, even with forests in the corners. What are your thoughts on it? And if you were to run them again, would you change it slightly, but keep it as guidelines?
Yeah. So at my own events, I run 4 different standard terrain packs, and that's soon going to become 5. So I basically have. There's 48 players, so 24 tables. So there's 6 of each type of terrain, and which are so table 1 we have a WTC style, table 2 we have LGT style, table 3 game mat style, and then table 4 is Games Workshop. So I don't think there's any perfect terrain layout, as much as people would like me to say this is the perfect terrain, go by this one. There just isn't. It's either too heavy, too light, or something somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And it's never quite right. And that's the reason I have different terrain sets, is because none of them are perfect. So if you have all of them, at least you can have like varied games, right?
Yeah.
The Games Workshop terrain is definitely the one with the perspex and the 4 big squares and the two rectangles, and then the 4 woods just randomly in a corner for some reason.
So we're never going to use.
Yeah, they definitely divide the community that does come to my events the most, because some people will be like, this is the worst terrain I've ever played. I hate it. And some people will be like, this is the best terrain I've ever played. Please just use this.
Yeah.
It's wild, because it's definitely it's like deceptively heavy terrain because of how the perspex interacts with the terrain.
It really is
very, very heavy, to a point where you can't really see down the middle of the board because it's basically just buildings going across the entirety of it. On a lot of the, especially like the hammer and anvil layout, short board edges. You've got like 2 like buildings with a very small gap in between, but if you're not touching them, there's just like 2 walls that are just blocking everything off, right? And I think that throws a lot of people off. I think the other layout is a little bit more balanced in terms of like not quite as heavy, because you've got like a really big no man's land in the middle.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I think it's good, but if you're gonna play on only that terrain for an entire event, you really have to like skew your list for it. It really favors combat armies, like really, really favors them. Whereas other tables like really favor shooting armies. And again, this is like why terrain packs are so important, in my opinion. Going to a tournament where it's just like random terrain on the day is just such a thing of the past. If you go to like a small random tournament at a shop, by all means, whatever. But like big events, if you go to a big event and they're like, we don't have a terrain pack, it's just whatever's on the table, and be like, bruh, I'm out.
Yeah, I've had a few of them this year, and I've had to be like, Mr. Tio, please can you adjust the table, because my friendly orc player I'm about to get smashed by is he can't get out of his deployment zone currently, so you change it.
Yeah. So do I like the terrain? It's mad that they have to use perspex on their own tables, but it makes it work. That's the other way you can make it work.
Yeah.
And it is a good table, kinda. Again, it's too heavy one way. It's all right the other way. The forests are just like really weird. I don't know where else you put them. You may as well just take them off.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of them. They just don't do anything. They're not really interactable unless you're weird.
Yeah. No, I haven't really played that table with the new missions, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. They're just the only really effect stuff is your deep strike. That's it. That's pretty much it. So deep strike has to have an 11-inch charge, or they have to just miss this perspex and just ignore it. So I don't know, if it was slightly bigger, then it'd make more difference if it was in the same place. But also then you just have an even denser board. I don't know. I don't know. It's nice that they're there, but they don't do a lot.
Yeah. Do you reckon, this is just off the cuff here, but do you reckon the reason why they've done the perspex like cutouts with their terrain on it is because their terrain is not really built for tournaments, and they're trying to get into the tournament market with their terrain? Because what it is literally is they've got the big perspex sheet where the guidelines of where it's supposed to be, and then you can plonk any of your bits of terrain on it, and that counts as your dense terrain or whatever it is. I think go on.
I was gonna say the terrain rules are written in a way that a based piece of terrain makes sense, but they don't sell based terrain, so they never really reference it as a terrain that should be based. But it's like, like a ruin is area terrain, right?
Yeah.
But what area does it cover if it's like an L shape? That you built from the Games Workshop, like the kill team, like building the big sanctum thing, which is like an L, right? What area does it cover? Is it just under the footprint? Is it only on the ruin? Is that the area? Is it like a floating platform? Nothing underneath matters. But as soon as you take that ruin and put it on a base, you know where the area is. You know where the ruin interacts. So the rules really favor the perspex idea is great. Shout out to Mike Brandt, savior of 40k. Buys perspex, sticks it on his board, laughs. You know what I mean? It does work, but it is because Games Workshop terrain is just kind of unsuitable for competitive play, and it is very expensive. So I think the perspex, again, a bandage on a bigger problem, it does fix their terrain and it makes it usable. But only very specific types of terrain. They don't use any of the Gothic ruins on their L's. They use the Mechanicus terrain, the new stuff, which has no windows, and they use the Orc terrain from Kill Team, which has no windows. So they don't really use anything else.
Well, the thing is, I could see it's great that they have this, and I think it's great that they're trying to bridge a gap that they haven't really got competitive. I think this is where a lot of the community will go, oh, cool, thanks for making this terrain idea where you've got this perspex. I'm just going to 3D print loads of terrain and then save me loads of money.
Wow, that'd be a crazy idea. Exactly that. It's just as soon as you got the perspex, you know how big the buildings are going to be. You can put anything on there and just be like, this is Games Workshop terrain. This is exactly what I do. So
talking about 3D printing, nice little segue there.
I like it.
So your 3D printing, you how many machines have you got? Because over the past almost few months, maybe half a year, you've kind of accumulated this kind of presence on within the community as a 3D printer now.
So I bought my first 3D printer in 2020. I kind of pseudo kickstarted the Elgu Saturn, which is a mid-sized printer, and that company, I made a video about it when I finally got it, and that company seemed to like me so much that they just like me to review all of their printers now. So I currently have 4 machines running. That's 2 plastic and 2 resin. So I have 3 others which are sat doing nothing right now. They're just chilling. They're just having the best time.
Nice.
They're what's known as spare parts when one or the other one breaks. But yeah, so I basically have 2 filament printers or plastic printers, and I have 2 resin printers as well. But I have a new resin printer coming sometime soon, which is even bigger than any other resin printer I've ever seen in my life. So, which will be fun. It's called the Jupiter, and the biggest one I've got is a Saturn. So as you can probably imagine, I'm going to print a full helmet, a full illegal helmet in one piece to put on my head in resin. It's going to be
One
amazing.
piece as well.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus,
Yeah.
that's huge.
We could make your logo into a faceplate and print that in one piece as well.
Oh, that would be wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked. It'd be a lot of resin. I got a big head.
Well, that is a big problem.
So, 3D printing, I don't know much about it, and then there are probably a lot of viewers that do know a lot about it, but there's also probably a lot who don't. How the hell do you do it? I literally have no idea. You just like press print and then off it goes, or what happens?
Sometimes it is as easy as that. So there's two types of printing, right? As I said, there's plastic and resin. They're like the two common ones. We've got FDM or filament printing, which is your plastic, and then you've got SLA printing, which is like sinter layering.
Yeah.
Long and short of it, the plastic one, you've got a nozzle, and it like gets really hot and pushes plastic through the nozzle, so it melts and it kind of like builds layers by drawing a shape, right? And the resin one, what that does, it has a tank of resin, like liquid resin, and a plate comes into the liquid and it shines a light like a phone screen underneath the liquid, and it sets a shape, and then it peels it off, puts it back down, and sets another shape, and then peels it off and puts it back down. And that's kind of like the long and short of the very, very simply, what is 3D printing? How does it work? It's wild because the basis of 3D printing is design something, like 3D model it in like any software you like. You've got like AutoCAD if you're like a bit more of an engineering type, or you've got like Blender if you're a bit more like a 3D modeler, like for like what and you kind of take it and just whack it on your machine and press print. That's kind of like, that is the basis of it. There's other things you've got to do. Like you might need to support it if it's got like a big overhang, for example, that won't print for it. There's like lots of reasons why things might not print, but you kind of design something and then put it onto some software, which turns it into a readable file for your printer, and your printer goes, okay, I'll do that. But because it's so massive and it's kind of exploded in the last like 3 to 4 years in the wargaming community, especially, I was working with printers like 8 or 9 years ago in my old job, because we were researching with the NHS. We were like 3D printing like human body parts to test them, like bones and stuff like that.
Wow, that's impressive.
So essentially, like, because I used to work in engineering, we'd run tests. Like essentially what we'd do is like 3D print a human bone and put it on a machine that applies weight like repeatedly for like months at a time, and we'd wait for it to break. By we, I mean the students or professors who are working on it. We wait for it to break, and then we look how it breaks, and we look at the crack propagation. That's what it's called. Essentially, when you're analyzing how something breaks, to be like, okay, we'll take this bone and we'll crush it millions of times repeatedly to simulate someone walking around. That's essentially what it's doing. And then they wait. How long does it take to break, and how does it break? That's essentially what I was doing like 5-6 years ago.
Wow.
But now it's just like, just bloody 3D print some random stuff. I've got like a Halo, for those watching at home, it's an Elite from Halo with an energy sword just sat on my desk. Just print toys now. I've got a rock. There you go. This is unplanned, by the way. I've just got some stuff sat on my desk. This is printed in resin, for example. But because it's so massive, there's so many designers either just a man in his basement just designing stuff because he likes it. I want to make a dragon, so I'm going to make it and then put it on the internet so other people can download it and make their own dragon. Or even there's like companies that I've worked with in the past, such as Raging Heroes, which are quite big in the 40k community because they make proxies for Dark Eldar and Sisters of Battle and stuff like that. They just sell files now. They just be like, you know what, we can sell models, but you can also just buy files, because it's like Patreon is like huge for 3D printing. That's exploded in the past year or two, where again, like Raging Heroes, Titan Forge, loads of other companies, they'll just be like, you subscribe, give us like £10 a month, and we'll send you like 30 model files every month. Of like this month it's jungle, next month it's going to be ocean, or for Titan Forge, I know they do sci-fi, it might be like super soldiers in power armor, and then next month it's going to be like green orc things with swords and axes, you know.
Perfect for 40k.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, it's just mad. Like it's so popular. And it's just so easy to do. And people just be like, you know what, it's just cheap. And it is kind of just cheap as well.
Yeah.
And it's so good for when you're practicing for a tournament, I'll tell you now, because there's nothing. I hate using proxies, right? I hate using stand-ins, but you don't want to buy a list and then realize it's crap. So you can just 3D. Yeah, you know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I've got a dreadnought here. This is a random pot with on a base, but you could just like print a knockoff dreadnought or something that's similar to a dreadnought, and then be like, I'm going to test it out with a model that is near enough the right size.
Yeah.
And then go away and buy it and then use it in a tournament, you know. So
good. It's definitely the future of kind of like the hobby, because I know my friend Rory's just started getting into 3D printing, and now he's already thought about, that's a good idea. I'm going to start a business out of this, and he's already got a printer.
Oh yeah.
He started now. He's got 4 more printers, and he's got like an annex that he's got, and then sparring out of control, but it's awesome. Like he's just
sorry, go on. There's just so many people that just like going and buying a printer, and I think I suffer from it as well, and being like, I'm going to print everything. So you spend like a week or two printing everything, and then you go, right, I don't know what to print anymore.
Yeah.
Hey friend, what do you want?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll print that, don't worry.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you're running a business, you got like 7 printers, 3 of them are sat on the floor doing nothing.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely good for your tournaments as well, how you can just quickly like print some terrain if there's like a dramatic change in, I don't know, the rule set, which kind of, maybe they take trees out, so now you need this new thing that comes out, you need rivers or something, because then you can just print like 3 or 4 tables worth of like ponds and rivers, which I don't know why they're not in the game at the moment, because that'd be really cool.
Ponds and rivers will be fun. But so like most of the terrain that I use, especially like the WTC style that I mentioned, we pretty much 3D printed all of that. I say we, it was just me in my basement, just like whipping the farm to make it faster. And then like the LGT style, when they like change their terrain layout like every other day, I kept up with it. Like they released before the LGT, they had a pack which was using just their old stuff. So I built and painted 10 sets of it. And then 2 weeks before my event, they decided to update it and add a building that they weren't selling. So I had to model and print the building they weren't selling for them to never use that building afterwards and change it again.
Zach likes to change it up a bit, especially after LGT, because LGT there wasn't enough terrain. Then Coventry there was too much. London Open there was not there was too much of too many big L's, the massive ones. There were 4, and then you had to get it down to the small four obscuring ones in the middle. So I mean, it's definitely getting better with his tournaments. Like I love going to them. They're so much fun seeing all of those like gamers in like one space.
Exactly. But he released a building that then he'd never used. He didn't use it at a single event, but I have loads of them.
Well, maybe one day.
So they ended up getting incorporated into a different table. But it is kind of fun. You can just go, you know what, I want this. Has someone made it? No, well, I can just make it myself and then just go and make one. It's just.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that was just a brief little like segment on 3D printing, because I don't really know much about it. I just kind of have seen people do it, and it's definitely the future of 40k. And I honestly don't know how Games Workshop are gonna get past it, because eventually you're gonna get really dedicated modelers who are gonna be like, oh, you see that thing that's coming out soon? Well, do you know what I'll do? I'll just get my phone, scan it, then smooth it out in the 3D software, and then bang, there you got your model.
It's like it's really good and really bad, because like I don't use it for like printing my own armies and stuff like that. Like I easily could, and pretty much everyone I know who has a 3D printer does do that. But me, I'm not that bothered. But on a side note, when the Void Dragon was announced, you remember the Void Dragon?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you could 3D print one of those, which is 90% accurate before it was on the shelf.
Whoa.
I saw in one group I'm in, they've already 3D printed the new Nighthawk character that was only revealed the other day. I like the LVO, you know, like the guy with the candles and stuff. Like someone's made one of those. It's just like, oh god, it is so bad. It's one of those things where it's like wild to like appreciate someone's talent that they've taken just like a quick 3D spin round and design it. I mean, it's not perfect, obviously, but it's pretty close. Like if you had one and you'd be like, look at this, you wouldn't be able to tell if you hadn't seen the real one, you know. Yeah, it's really bad. It's one of the things you can't really control it. I don't think Games Workshop know how to control it. Obviously, it's like it's stealing IP, you know.
Yeah,
that's what it, like, hands down, it just is.
Yeah.
But the real problem for Games Workshop is like people who make stuff that's close to their stuff but different enough that they can sell their own.
Yeah.
Well, because proxies have been a thing for years, you know. Look at like Creature Caster that blew up before Games Workshop started doing all the demons in plastic. They were just like making big cool ass demons, and people are like, you know what?
Yeah.
I love that. I want some of that. And now everyone's like, it's a really, really well known thing. You know, it's a really big company.
Yeah.
And then, but that's like super normal. And then as soon as sometimes you get like 3D printing, and it's like if you have something that's like deemed a proxy, it's fine. But if you have stuff that's like a rip-off, it's kind of not. But like, how do you draw that line? It's super hard.
Yeah.
So it's a bit wild, really. Don't really know how it's going to affect Games Workshop. I think Games Workshop are just trying to make as much money as possible before it's so easy. Because it is so easy now, people just don't realize it.
Yeah. I just think it's cool though. I'd love to do it, but I think I get obsessed. I get obsessed with just like building models. Like I got Blood Bowl for Christmas, and I was like, oh, cool, Blood Bowl. I never played it before, and I painted like 3 or 4 models, and I was like, these models are amazing, so much better than Drukhari. And so now I'm already thinking about getting like the dwarves and all of these sort of stuff. And I doubt I'll ever play them. I just like the hobby. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, exactly. It is a separate hobby, though. If you're watching this video or listening to this podcast being like, you know what, Mikey said 3D printing is cool, I'm going to go buy one. It is a new hobby. It's not like, I'm going to buy a 3D printer to print Warhammer. It's kind of like, I'm going to buy a 3D printer because I want to print stuff, but I can also print stuff for Warhammer. One of those things. I've done plenty of videos on it as well, so make sure you watch those. Just saying.
Yeah.
Plug. Hashtag plug.
Oh yeah, this is what you're here for. This is like,
exactly.
We're here to chat with me about Warhammer. Plug all your stuff, and people just here to watch what we do. So because I like to keep these like short-ish, like to about an hour and all that sort of stuff. I think we start to wind it down a little bit now, because you know, commuter length and all that sort of stuff is the goal in these. So we talked about, like, obviously your tournaments, talked about your new move, which is really exciting. We talked about 3D printing, we talked about tournaments, all this sort of stuff. Just one last thing, which is the kind of the only thing in the meta segment that we'll get to touch on today. But new armies that just come out. What is your opinion brief opinion on Tau that have just come out, and everyone is losing their minds over the railgun, for example?
Oh, that railgun! Oh man, that is just like such good bait for any meme ever. I think I've farmed lots and lots of likes just off the railgun. There was one that was just like, you know, little tiny puppy, and it was like the Tau railgun. Then behind it a massive henge puppy, which wasn't a puppy, it's a big dog, and it just said like the Storm Surge or something. And then just people are losing their minds. The best meme that I saw that I did share, it was just like a man holding a sign, and it said, Games Workshop have only reduced the points of your tanks in chapter approved, so the railguns have more stuff to shoot. People. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's not. I almost think it's by design, right? So we just had all of this, like they increased the points of of like some armies, but then they decrease it for like Thick City, which is all monsters. Then you bring out all of the orc stuff, so there's loads of vehicles on the board, and you bring out some more nids and make all these like really unkillable nids, and then
which are all monsters.
And then you just go, and everyone's losing their minds, being like, how are we going to beat this in like competitive play? And then Games Workshop goes, Hammerhead.
Yeah.
And then they're all sold out.
No one's bought a Hammerhead in a while.
No.
I mean, it's just like, it's one of those things, if you bring it up, you start sounding like you're a conspiracy theorist. But
yeah.
But yeah, Games Workshop know what they're doing.
They do.
Like,
really
here's all of these rules that are really busted and everyone's fed up with playing them. So here's the perfect counter, you know? And it's just like, it's a way to shake up the meta, you know? But it's just like, well, everyone who was playing Mid City like 2 weeks ago is going to be playing Tau to counter the people still playing, like, I said Mid City, I meant Thick City, or Nidzilla. If everyone was playing Nidzilla 2 weeks ago because they were doing really well at LVO, or going to do really well at the LVO, then people will just jump to the railguns to beat everyone who's currently still playing Nidzilla, you know? I don't think railguns are that good into Thick City. I think it's decent, but kills a couple, but you can hide them a lot easier than like Tyranids.
Yeah. Like I when I saw the railgun, I was like, cool, you kill a raider, like great, and then I'll get the next turn. But I feel really sorry for Knight players. I feel really sorry for Be'lakor players who have brought all of these amazing like demons, which they made expensive, and it's like the only thing that's good for those things is that they're really tanky, and they're almost advertising like, here, buy this, you can one-shot Be'lakor.
Yeah, they're really like rubbing it in, aren't they, as well? That was kind of like the article that came out that really rubbed people the wrong way. It was just like, you can one-shot an Imperial Knight with this 150-point tank or whatever it is. Because screw all your friends.
And they just made Knights good as well. They just made them really good with their OBSEC and the counters 10 models. And
yeah, giving them their own secondary, which is like really god. So they're like gonna be able to play the mission better, but then they just die quicker. It's just funny. This is why you can't take this game too seriously, because you are gonna get screwed over every time.
I know it makes me laugh for meta chasers, because I've been very fortunate this year that I've had Drukhari and I haven't really had to think twice. I've just been bouncing between different stuff in the book. But there's people who literally chase the meta of what's top at the moment. They'll borrow armies of people, they'll buy and sell models all year long. And people have just bought all these big nids, and there's a lot of people that would have bought these, 3D printed them, borrowed them off their mate, bought them off their mate. And then every Tau player has a hammerhead with railguns, because that's what they used to have, and it's kind of like the iconic tank of Tau. No one cares about the ion cannon. It's all about the railguns if you've got them. But what also is a bit of a meme is the combat Tau. So it kind of takes the mick a bit, because I might get all of these stats wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's above 3 damage in close combat with the Onaga Gauntlet. And it's kind of a bit broken in the fact that they're only supposed to be good at one thing, and they've made them crazy good at one thing. Like breaches are amazing. They've got some amazing mechanics with, they can get out of vehicles after it's moved, all this sort of stuff. And I love the rule that it says, but you may not charge. Thank you for saying that.
I'm a Tau player. I knew I didn't need to do that anyway.
Exactly. There's all these amazing mechanics which work amazing. I've always liked the idea. I've seen so many people 3D print almost like power swords going on the end of their fusion guns, because that used to be in like the old codex, and a lot of people just use the Halo power sword, energy sword, which they used to put on the suits, and it looked amazing. What's your thoughts of having combat like such a it's a very good combat character in such like a shooty army? All armies should be able to have combat, but
it's always the Onaga Gauntlet was in the last book as well. It wasn't quite as good. It was good though. obviously I play a lot of Warhammer. I film a lot of Warhammer. I think in one of the battle reports, like we had a commander kill a knight with the Onager Gauntlet, which was very fun.
Epic.
Very fun. Obviously, it had been shot for 2 turns before that, but it did die to the gauntlet. Having something like that in the book is kind of weird, but also Tau don't really act it outside in that phase outside of that relic, you know.
Yeah, true.
They don't really deal with combat or all. So having like one character that is really good is kind of like annoying. I mean, in the Tau book, they've already got railguns. Do they need an Onager Gauntlet? Maybe not. But it's kind of like, it's not like a unit that's going to be doing it, right? It's one character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got all its shenanigans because Tau, but it's only one dude, you know, or one model that can do it.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad. It's kind of like makes you think a bit more, because otherwise you're just gonna be like, I'm just gonna hide because you're shooting at me. But it's like, I'm gonna hide, but also you got this commander that's gonna fly at you and punch in the face if you don't deal with him. So
yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm ready for the year of hate we're gonna have for Tau again.
Because I just hate Tau anyway. You know what I mean? I hated Tau when they were crap. I hated Tau when they were good. I'm like indifferent. You know what I mean? You got a cool gauntlet, I don't care. I still don't like you.
Yeah,
don't know what it is. Don't know what it is about Tau. I think they've just had such an uninteractive play style for so long that I just got an undying hatred for them. I think most people agree.
Yeah, I think the entire community, apart from Tau players, are all the same. Because I absolutely love the models for Tau. I really like Pacific Rim as a film. And I've always liked the idea of like having one person being like Tyranids, one person being Tau, and they're all these big suits like smash in the middle with the big bow. I love it. But I just could never get myself to like pick them as an army to collect, because I just knew
they'll never smash in the middle. That's why.
Yeah.
They'll always stand at the side of the table.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, like your big riptides, they'll never go in combat. They'll just sit at the side of the board, just shooting. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll wrap things up there, just because I do want to keep these like commuter length, and this is about an hour now. And thank you so much for coming on, Mikey.
Yeah, man, it was really fun.
Had a great time. Do you want to just like shout out where everyone can find you, and like give us a rundown of what's to come like in the future?
Well, as always, you'll now find me at youtube.com/Hellstorm Wargaming for all your live debates about stupid rules from Games Workshop. But just general, what I think is fun 40k content, whether you're a competitive person or more casual, you'll definitely find your home on Hellstorm Wargaming if you want to come hang out. And again, we will be live streaming Mondays and Wednesdays doing Talking Head stuff, and on Thursdays we'll do live battle reports as well. And things to come. Well, hopefully, by the time you listen to this, I am actually streaming on those nights. If I'm not, it's because I'm not done.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, so we've got some exciting stuff we've like cut in terms of content. I'm moving more into 3D printing as well, and we're doing more regular 3D printing stuff. I showed this off on another stream, but this is the base of the next project, which is currently half edited. This is 100mm base, and I'm super excited to show it off. Because the guy fell off the base, so I'm just showing everyone the base now. But yeah, and then we've got tournaments coming, we've got live streamed events coming, not only for our own events, but we're going out to cover different people's events as well. So if you want to watch them live 40k, or if you're going to a tournament or hosting a tournament and you want someone to come cover it for you, let me know. Get in touch.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you so much, and thanks to everyone who's watched this or listened to this on Spotify, YouTube. It might be on iTunes now. I am unsure. This is only like my third video. But please give a like down there and a comment, and subscribe and share it with your friends.
Hit the bell.
Yeah.
Only 20% of you are subscribed, so subscribe right now.
Yeah. You listen to Mikey. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know how many people are subscribed, but
not that many. Well, yeah, so I've been your host, Don Maidlow, also known as Dark Techno Dom. You can follow me on the Instagram, but thank you so much for listening, and thanks again, Mikey, for coming on. And this has been Let's Talk Wargaming.